You think you know underrated games? You don't. Here are 10 underrated games nobody actually talks about. Singularity. Raven Software made this right before Activision basically turned them into a Call of Duty support studio, and it shows, because Singularity feels like a studio swinging for the fences on what might be their last shot. It's a time manipulation FPS set on a Soviet island that's been wiped off the map. You get this device that can age objects forward and backward in time, and the game actually builds puzzles and combat around it in ways that feel genuinely clever, not just gimmicky. The story has this pulpy sci-fi energy that keeps escalating in ways you don't see coming. It got decent reviews, quietly disappeared, and nobody brought it back. If you like BioShock's flavor of atmospheric corridor shooter with a strong mechanical hook, this is exactly that.
That's my cue. Time to leg it.
The Saboteur, Pandemic Studios' last game before they shut down, which is genuinely sad because this one had a vision. You're an Irish race car driver and mechanic in Nazi-occupied Paris, and the whole city is rendered in black and white except for the areas you liberate. Color literally bleeds back in as you push the Germans out. That's not a gimmick, that's a design philosophy. The open world is dense with stuff to blow up, the story is pulpy and fun, and the atmosphere is unlike anything else in the genre. It came out a few weeks after Assassin's Creed 2 and got completely buried. Timing is brutal sometimes. Binary Domain. On the surface, this looks like a generic third-person shooter set in future Tokyo. It is not. And here's the thing. This was made by Ryuga Gotoku Studio, the team behind Yakuza. That should tell you something. What makes Binary Domain special is the squad system. Your teammates are actually tracking how you treat them throughout the game. Ignore them, let them die, don't respond when they talk to you, and they stop trusting you. That affects how they perform in combat, what they're willing to do for you, and how the story branches. The shooting also feels great, and blowing apart robot enemies piece by piece never gets old. Sega published this and then seemingly forgot it existed. Worth finding.
In there, and it seemed to be the only way to the dry dock.
Quantum Break. Remedy were always going to do something weird with this one, and they did. It's a time manipulation third-person shooter, stopping, rushing, and redirecting time in combat, wrapped around this live-action TV show that plays between acts and changes based on decisions you make in the game. Some people bounced off the TV episodes. I think the whole package is fascinating as an experiment that mostly works. The shooting is some of the most satisfying Remedy has ever made, and the story swings hard. It underperformed on release and kind of vanished from the conversation, which is a shame.
I did. As the governor of New Mexico was paying for the kids' apprehension.
Call of Juarez Gunslinger. This is the best Western FPS ever made, and I will not be taking questions. Techland made this, the same studio behind Dead Island and later Dying Light, and Ubisoft published it as a budget downloadable title after the previous game in the series bombed. What came out was lean, focused, and completely confident. You're listening to an old gunslinger tell stories in a saloon, and the game is aware that he's an unreliable narrator. The world literally reshapes itself mid-level as he changes his story. The mechanics are tight, the tone is perfect, and it's over in about 6 hours without a second of filler. A masterclass in scope management.
Garrett hired weren't the sharpest tools in the shed. A lot of them were saddle tramps.
Sleeping Dogs. Every conversation about open-world games with good melee combat should start here, and it almost never does. You're an undercover cop embedded in Hong Kong's triads, and the combat is this fluid, brutal, counter-based brawling system that makes you feel like you're in an action film. The city is dense and alive in a way a lot of bigger-budget open worlds still aren't. The story actually has weight to it. The undercover angle creates real tension about who your character is becoming. It outsold expectations, a sequel got teased, and then United Front Games closed in 2016 with nothing greenlit. One of the great what-ifs of the generation. Alice Madness Returns, American McGee's dark reimagining of Alice in Wonderland, and this sequel goes even darker. Alice is processing serious childhood trauma, and the whole game is essentially her mind trying to suppress a truth too painful to face. The art direction is genuinely stunning. Wonderland is this collapsing, corrupted version of itself, and each chapter has a completely different visual identity. The platforming is satisfying, the combat gets repetitive if you're honest about it, but the world is so committed to its aesthetic that it carries everything. EA published it, barely marketed it, and moved on. It has a passionate cult following for a reason. Greedfall. This one comes from Spiders, a small French studio, and it punches so far above its weight class it's almost embarrassing. You're a diplomat arriving on a colonial-era island. Think early 18th century aesthetics mixed with fantasy. And the whole game is about navigating relationships between factions, indigenous peoples, and competing colonial powers. It's basically BioWare-style RPG design. Companions, romance, moral choices that actually shift the world, made on a fraction of the budget. The writing is uneven in places, sure, but the systems underneath are genuinely deep, and the world has a texture most AAA RPGs don't bother with. If you've been starved for a Mass Effect-style experience and haven't played this, that's the pitch. Outward carves out a genuinely unusual niche in the RPG space. You are not the chosen one. You're nobody. A regular person with debts to pay, no special destiny, and no plot armor. The survival mechanics are brutal and unforgiving, but in a way that makes the world feel real. You need to sleep, eat, manage your temperature, and actually prepare before going anywhere dangerous. The magic system is one of the most creative in any RPG. Rituals, timing, environmental interactions, it rewards experimentation rather than just leveling up a stat. And the co-op is seamless. It flopped commercially, got middling reviews from people who bounced off the difficulty, and quietly became one of the most beloved games in the corners of the internet that found it. Prey. Arcane made Dishonored, then immediately followed it up with something arguably better, and somehow nobody talks about it. You're on a space station overrun by shape-shifting aliens, and the whole game is a masterclass in environmental storytelling. Every room has a history. The mimics, enemies that disguise themselves as ordinary objects, create a constant low-level paranoia that never lets up. It bombed commercially because Bethesda saddled it with almost no marketing and a title that made people think it was a sequel to a completely different game. Arcane Austin is now closed. Play it. There you have it. Let me know in the comments how many of these have you heard of before. Like and subscribe. Or don't. You know the drill.